The message from my mother arrived at 11:27 p.m. The screen flashed once, briefly lighting the dark apartment. We changed all the locks. You don't have a home anymore. Let's see how brave you are now. For a moment, I just stared at it. The words didn't feel real. Like they belonged to someone else's life. My thumb hovered over the screen, suspended, as if touching it might burn me. I read the message once. Then again. Then a third time, until every word carved itself into my mind like ice cutting stone. I expected tears, or anger, or fear. What I felt instead was something quieter, colder, clarity. I didn't reply. I didn't break down. I smiled. Because what none of them understood was this home was never a building. It was never theirs to take. And what came next would dismantle the comfortable empire they'd built on greed, lies, and my obedience, piece by piece. I didn't regret a single second of it. If you've ever been used, drained, and discarded by your own family, the very people who were supposed to protect you, then you already know the taste of this kind of betrayal. This isn't a story about revenge for revenge's sake. It's about justice delivered with paperwork and precision. It's about what happens when family greed collides with legal strategy and loses. My name is Jessica Chen. I'm 28. I'm a numbers-minded, detail, obsessed accountant with a memory built for patterns, something that turned out to be both my curse and my salvation. I grew up in a tidy two-story colonial in Portland, Oregon. White shutters, a maple tree that shed red leaves every autumn. From the outside, we looked like the perfect family. Inside, perfection was a performance, and I was the stagehand keeping the show running. The exploitation didn't start violently. It never does. It started quietly, innocently enough to be mistaken for love. I was 14 when my father stopped asking and started ordering. Jessica, grab the ladder. We're fixing the gutters. Jessica, hold the flashlight. Weekends disappeared into sawdust and sweat, while other girls learned makeup tricks and traded secrets. I sanded fences and climbed onto roofs. My hands were a patchwork of cuts from tools, too heavy for my age. My back ached constantly. Every complaint earned the same rehearsed response. You're tougher than any son I could have asked for, Dad would say, laughing as he ruffled my hair, like that erased the exhaustion. Mom would nod. Family helps family. Then came the comparison. Jessica's handy. Amanda's delicate. Delicate. That was the family code for preferred. Amanda, my younger sister, was the orchid in sunlight. I was the root buried in dirt, holding everything up. I believed their stories, that hard work built character, that this was love disguised as discipline. By 17, saying no felt like betrayal. Then, the money requests began. Subtle at first. Things are tight. Mom would sigh. Could you help with the electric bill? She said it like she was asking me to pass the salt. Soon it was mortgage payments, emergency expenses, gentle manipulations that made me feel proud for fixing problems that were never mine. By 21, I realized the truth. My parents didn't just appreciate my help, they depended on it. I was their invisible income stream, funding their illusion of stability, while they quietly saved every spare cent for Amanda's future. Whenever I asked about vacations or small luxuries, I was told, "Those aren't priorities right now." Meanwhile, Amanda got a brand new car at 16, full tuition at a private college, and all expenses, paid trip to Italy to study art. I worked 12-hour shifts, balancing customer spreadsheets, eating instant noodles at my desk. But love has a way of dressing injustice up as logic when you've been trained to accept crumbs. I told myself it was fair. I was the strong one, the responsible one. Being dependable made me feel necessary. Then, about a year ago, the illusion cracked. It started with small things. Conversations that stopped when I entered the room. Family planning talks where my name never appeared. My instincts screamed, but I had no proof. Until one night in March. I came home late from work, drained by tax season. When I heard voices in the kitchen, I almost walked past until I heard my name. So I stopped, and I listened. "The deed is in our names only," Mom said quietly. "Jessica doesn't realize all her help was voluntary. She won't get anything when we sell." Dad chuckled. A deep, ugly sound. "She never asked for paperwork." Classic Jessica. All heart, no business sense. Then Amanda's voice, hesitant, curious. "But won't she expect something?" Mom scoffed. "Expect what? She gave gifts. Gifts don't buy ownership." I gripped the wall until my knuckles went white. They were planning to sell the house, the one I maintained, painted, financed, and cut me out completely. My own family, dividing stolen goods like mobsters. I didn't cry. I didn't confront them. I went to my room, opened my laptop, and started building the case that would end them. For the next 6 months, I lived 2 lives. By day, a mild-mannered accountant. By night, a document hunter. Receipts, emails, bank transfers, loan records. Every detail became a puzzle piece, in a legal blueprint they never saw coming. And by the time they realized what I was doing, it was already too late. My father's arrogance became my greatest ally. He never kept clean books. Never imagined he'd need to. Money moved casually between us. Quick transfers from my account to his, labeled with vague little notes like help or temporary. He assumed love erased the need for records. I documented everything. $47,000 in mortgage contributions. $23,000 in renovation materials. Another $15,000 in utilities. I covered during their so-called financial emergencies. $85,000. Every cent traced directly back to me. Then there was the labor. 13 years of unpaid work painting siding, replacing shingles, fixing drainage systems, jobs contractors would have billed out for tens of thousands. I built spreadsheets so detailed, even the IRS would have nodded in approval. Once my mountain of evidence was complete, I met quietly with 3 separate attorneys. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tip my hand. I just listened. Each attorney confirmed what my instincts already knew. Legally, I had a claim. A strong one. My name wasn't on the deed. But equity isn't always written in ink. Sometimes it's written in proof. In sweat. In bank records. In patterns too obvious to ignore. So I waited. When the message arrived that night in September, we changed all the locks. You don't have a home anymore. Let's see how brave you are now. It didn't break me. It completed the picture. That smug little haha at the end wasn't cruelty. It was evidence. It proved intent. It clarified motive. They thought they were shutting me out. What they'd actually done was hand me the final puzzle piece. I needed to burn their empire to ash, legally. For the first time in months, I slept deeply. At exactly 70 m the next morning, I walked into work with coffee in one hand and my phone in the other. My attorney answered on the second ring. Jessica, good morning. I watched the sunrise slice through the office blinds. File the petition, I said. He didn't ask questions. We'd been preparing for this moment for months. 2 days later, my phone rang again. This time from my parents' attorney. His voice was tight, urgent. Miss Chen, we have a serious problem. We need to discuss this immediately. Of course they did. Their iron cage of control had cracks, and I just turned them into fractures. I didn't call back right away. I let the silence stretch. I wanted them to sit with it. To feel it. To understand that the daughter they'd used and dismissed for years had grown into a woman. A woman who understood exactly how power worked. The confrontation came the following week in a sterile mediation room downtown. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, bathing everything in harsh, unforgiving clarity. A long table divided the room. My legal team on one side, theirs on the other. They arrived first. My father, red-faced and blustering. My mother, clinging to her familiar air of superiority. Amanda, pale, confused, and finally afraid. For the first time in months, I sat across from all three of them and felt nothing. No anger. No grief. No love. Just focus. I didn't meet their eyes. I placed a thick manila folder on the table and slid it to the center. What's this? My father demanded, his voice heavy with authority that no longer worked. My attorney opened the folder with deliberate precision. Documentation of my client's financial contributions to the property, along with evidence of labor and materials, provided over a 14-year period. Inside were copies of everything: bank statements, receipts, wire transfers, invoices. $47,000 toward the mortgage. $23,000 in repairs. Utility payments during their fabricated crisis. Contractor invoices for work I paid for, when they claimed they couldn't afford it. But the most damning evidence wasn't financial. It was their own words. Texts, emails, messages explicitly requesting help, calling it temporary, promising they'd make it right once things improved. My father flipped through the pages, his smug confidence collapsing with each turn. My mother tried to interrupt, but her voice kept catching as the scale of the documentation became undeniable. Amanda stared silently, eyes darting between the papers and her parents' faces. Finally understanding, she wasn't the favorite daughter in a loving family. She was the beneficiary of a calculated scheme. This is ridiculous, my father snapped. Those were gifts. Family helping family. Jessica never asked for a formal agreement. My attorney didn't raise his voice. Mr. Chen, these documents demonstrate a clear pattern of solicited contributions made under representations of temporary financial hardship. He slid forward another set of papers, bank statements, I'd pointed. They also show that during those same periods, you and your wife maintained substantial savings and investment accounts. Silence crushed the room. And finally, my attorney continued. The message threatening my client with homelessness demonstrates malicious intent to deprive her of the benefits of her contributions. I watched their faces change as the truth landed. That house, their fortress, their leverage, their weapon, was slipping from their control. My mother spoke first, her voice trembling. Jessica, honey, this is all a misunderstanding. We never meant. You never meant for me to document everything, I said, calmly. The first time I'd spoken since entering the room. You never meant for me to learn property law. You never meant for me to realize I was subsidizing your lifestyle while you stockpiled money for Amanda. My father's face turned purple. After everything we did for you, he began. After raising you, feeding you, housing you, after using me as unpaid labor for 14 years, I cut in. And for the first time in my life, he had nothing left to say, after taking. What, 85,000 of my money under false pretenses. After planning to sell the very house I helped build and maintain. Without offering me a single cent. My attorney laid out our demands with surgical precision. My client is not seeking reimbursement, he said calmly. She is seeking her rightful ownership. Stake in the property, based on documented financial contributions and uncompensated labor. He let that settle. Given the evidence, we are requesting a 50% ownership interest. The room erupted. My father shouted about ungrateful children and legal extortion. My mother dissolved into tears, wailing about family loyalty and how I was destroying everything. Amanda stayed silent, her face pale, probably calculating how much her inheritance had just shrunk. I remained still. I'd spent months preparing for this moment. Their emotional weapons no longer worked on me. 6 weeks later, when the judge signed the court order, I stood outside the courthouse holding documents that legally confirmed my 50% ownership of the property. Not because my family had chosen fairness, but because the law had recognized what they tried to erase. I didn't earn that stake through generosity. I earned it through years of money, labor, and endurance. The first thing I didn't do was move back into the house. That place was poisoned. Too many memories. Too much manipulation. Besides, they'd already made it clear I wasn't welcome. They changed the locks. They'd drawn the line. So I forced the sale. As a 50% owner, I had the legal right to demand liquidation if we couldn't agree on the property's use. They didn't want to live with me. I had no desire to live with them. The house sold for $680,000, significantly more than they'd expected, thanks to the improvements I'd paid for over the years. My share came to $340,000, minus legal fees and taxes. Here's the part they never planned for. That house was supposed to fund their retirement. They'd expected to pocket the full sale price, buy something smaller, invest the rest, and coast comfortably into old age. Instead, they walked away with half, minus their own legal costs. Barely enough for a modest condo in a less desirable neighborhood. Their vision of a wealthy, secure retirement evaporated overnight. With my share, I bought a quiet townhouse across town. It's smaller than the old family home, but it's mine. Every payment, every repair, every decision belongs to me. They still try to reach out. My father sends emails layered with guilt. After everything we sacrificed for you, this is how you repay us. My mother leaves voicemails soaked in fake remorse. Family is supposed to forgive, Jessica. You'll regret this when we're gone. Amanda plays mediator, suggesting therapy and claiming she never knew their plan. She did. She was sitting at that kitchen table when they discussed cutting me out. I don't respond. Their numbers are blocked. Their emails filtered. Their access to my life is gone. Because when they changed the locks and sent that message, they thought they were taking my future. What they actually did was give me the final proof. I needed to claim what was already mine. They tried to make me homeless. Instead, they lost their home and their retirement. Now, when I sit in my living room, coffee in hand, wrapped in the quiet of a space I own, I smile. The locks they changed don't matter. I have my own now. Sometimes the people who hurt you most are the ones who believe they know you best. They assume you'll always stay who they trained you to be: compliant, generous, easy to control. But people grow, people learn, and sometimes people fight back. If this story resonated with you, like and subscribe for more stories about standing up to toxic family dynamics. And tell me in the comments, have you ever had to take legal action against someone you loved? What was your breaking point? You're not alone.